Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. India is witnessing upheaval and the foreign intervention, as I discussed the other day, continues while sensible countries like UK have taken corrective legal steps in arresting some of the protesters. They have a free day here in Canada. But today I am not going to talk about it. As a matter of fact, today I'm going to talk about the basic ignorance of the farmers who are protesting and the closure of the country, Bharat Bandh, proposed for tomorrow, is something which is almost criminal because it brings the whole country to a standstill, especially in a state of pandemic spreading. Whosoever may be responsible, one thing is sure that the government has shown resilience and have agreed to accept all demands. But one of the most unreasonable demand is withdrawal of the laws. The government has agreed to amend the laws. And the most government can do is to make those laws inoperable till the final decision is taken. But the political leaders who are instigating the farmers, and you would see that the whole organization being spearheaded by Punjab is essentially based either on ignorance or willful ignorance, deliberate. And today I happen to see a post by a person who is supposed to be very intelligent, saying that, for example, the law one says that there will be no MSP. It nowhere says that. That the law number three says that they will not be allowed to go to court of law. No, this is not possible because it's not doesn't mention that. And even otherwise, the Constitution permits you to go to court of law. And if this law would be there, the Supreme Court would not take more than half an hour to declare the law unconstitutional. And I'm amazed that the Bar Council president yesterday said, didn't say it, but he said they are supporting the farmers. Now, if this law was there, that the farmers cannot go to court of law, you can be sure they will not waste a single second before filing PIL. PIL is the Indian anagram of public interest litigation, asking the court to throw the law in the dustbin. It's not there. And now it has come to that stage where the government of India has agreed to discuss and solve all issues, barring the total withdrawal of the case. Now, one of the things which did puzzle me, amused me, annoyed me was that they are placards and they are saying we were not consulted at the time of framing the laws. The process of consultation is not there in India. Let's be very clear. And the laws are made for the country, not for a specific group. And even when they are made for a specific group, the group is not consulted. For example, were the Muslims consulted before the triple talaq was banned in India? No. Were the princes consulted when their privy purses were banned in India? No. Were the states consulted when State Reorganization Commission reorganized all the states? No. And if I take this argument to the extreme limit that affected group must be consulted, then Pakistan should have been consulted before we launched a surgical strike. The whole thing is ridiculous. There's a system. The laws are there. You object to the laws, and if you think they're illegal, you can go to court of law. And coming back to they're not consulted, in 1965, when the mandis, the markets were made, were the farmers consulted at that time? No. So where is this question now coming up that they were not consulted? And for the last few months, much heat has been generated, but nothing much has been achieved. I definitely salute the farmers about one thing, that they are absolutely peaceful. Despite the provocation by some agent provocateurs and by some interested parties, they have not indulged in any violence. They have been fully disciplined. I appreciate that. At the same time, let's not forget that agriculture contributes 70% of the Indian GDP. It's almost the same as the population which is dependent on agriculture directly or indirectly. So the government fully realizes the importance of the farming and the economic aspects of the farming sector. Now, this is indelible preamble. There are options to settle the impasse. I had recommended in my last talk that what the government of India should do is immediately say, okay, it shall not be operable. No, India, there are two ways who to implement the laws. One way is to cancel the law, the court cancels the law, declares it ultra virus. The second is the government can say, okay, the law will become in operation once it is notified in the Gazette. Normally, laws become operative as soon as the president signs. But government can always say, no, this law we will hold in abeyance till it's put in the Gazette, it's notified. So government can easily say, okay, we will not notify it, so the law would not be operational. So it's not something which needs the whole country to come to a closure. It doesn't need something where hundreds and thousands of the farmers should converge in the national capital and inflict pain on the citizens of the capital as well as on themselves. I can understand and I fully realize that they are coming and camping in this cold weather in Delhi is not an easy job, despite the fact that they are fully prepared to the extent of having not only the food, the tents, and the government has given them insulated huts to save them from the. But these busybodies, the people who are coming and who have no knowledge, some actors coming over there, giving them money, escorting them to continue the struggle, that doesn't behove. And unfortunately, those people are absolutely ignorant. As a matter of fact, the spirit behind the presently disputed agricultural law should be taken in consideration. 30% of the MPs declare their profession as farmers. Now, 30% of farmers, would they pass a law which goes against their own interest? No. What has happened is that the parties have now started distancing themselves from the law because of the hurricane, the tsunami of the protest. But distancing oneself from an issue does not mean that you support it or oppose it. For the simple minded, hard working farmer, it's easy to excite them to engage them, to push them forward. And the politicians do it with a subtle nuance of showing that they are doing it in their favor, while the real purpose is to create a problem for the party in power. As a matter of fact, the declaration of the Prime Minister of Canada giving support has added fuel to the fire. And now they're quoting him, forgetting that this is the person and this is the government which has opposed the MSP and subsidies given to the farmers in WTO, and that they have been doing for the last few years. But the fact that the foreign countries would always try to fish in the troubled waters does not mean that we should not understand. Now, let's come to the common feature. The biggest problem is MSP, minimum support price. The practice till now has been that the minimum support price was operative. But how many farmers would sell a majority of the stock above that? What would happen is they would take their stock to the market, and a conglomerate of traders, businessmen, middlemen, who had the advantage of familiarity and the ease of paying in cash, would give them the money. And the farmers remained in a comfortable cocoon, not realizing that no business runs without profit. They are talking about the corporates taking the profit. Do the middlemen and the RTOs and the agents not take a profit? The farmers didn't get what they deserve. And that was because the minimum support price had become the maximum price. It had become the ceiling. And they had to sell it. And now, as a matter of fact, they are having a freedom to sell where they want. The subsidy being given was too much, but it was not enough on investment to augment farm infrastructure. So things needed to change. What was relevant in 1965-67 is not relevant in 2020 and 2021. And unfortunately, the farmers' union refused to accept this fact. And let's not forget, these unions are controlled by Communist Party of India. CPI and CPM control the Kisan Sabhas. And for them, economics makes no sense because they are allergic to the free trade and capital. Now let's come to the leaders of the agitation, that's Punjab. Punjab is the only province in the country which has 99% irrigation system. 99%. If I take the whole of India average, it's less than 50%. So less than 50%. And Punjab has 90%. Maharashtra's irrigation, for example, is just 20%. But the land holding in Punjab is 3.62 hectares, while India average is 1.0 hectares, and in Bihar it's just zero point 0.4 hectares. So Punjab is much better placed. Fertilizer consumption in Punjab is 212 kilograms vis-a-vis an all India level of 135 kilograms per hectare. And from where do these fertilizers come? They are all subsidized by the government. No wonder that the productivity level of wheat and rice in Punjab stands at 5 tons per hectare and 4 tons hectare as opposed to all India average of 3.5 tons hectare and 2.6 tons per hectare. But now comes another fact. The total farm families in Punjab are only 1.09 million. And if at all India level, the total number is 146.4 45 million. So it's not even 1/100th of the all India level, but still, as far as the production and the profit is concerned and the subsidies are concerned, they are the only place where they got absolutely 100% free electricity, subsidies on pesticides, subsidies on fertilizers. What else do they want? The fertilizer subsidy through the central government was 5,000 crores in 2019, that's last year. 5,000 crores worth of fertilizer subsidy was given by the government. If we take the total subsidy, which includes power and fertilizer, it is 13,275 crores. This means that each farm household got 1.22 lakh rupees last year as subsidy. Imagine this money coming to them. This is the highest subsidy for a farm household in India. Let's not forget. The average income of Punjab farm household is the highest in India. It is 2.5 times more than the average farm income of the whole country. And yet they are spearheading because they have been politically motivated. I don't want to say by extra constitutional illegal people, but then some people have definitely promoted them. And Amrinder Singh's statement that the national security is as a danger point, is a flight point, is a sufficient indication. No, I had written an article, if you remember, that to withdraw the laws would be committing harakiri. So the government must stand by the law and communicate to the people the waste of underwriting status quo in the farm front. This does not change the fact that the protests should have been avoided and the legitimate demands must be addressed. Even if they don't understand it, the better thing would have been to make the people understand. Until that time, give them both options. And happily, luckily, the government has agreed that they'll continue with the old operation and the new operation is a side channel for the progressive people who want to use it. There's no fundamental goal of conflict. Let's not forget that. The goal of the government and the goal of the farmer is the same. There's no fundamental goal. The only different goal is that of the intermediaries, the RTR, the agents, the management agents who get about 5,000 crores, one family in Punjab, Badal, they get 5,000 crores only from the commissions. So they don the farmer's turban and drive their tractors, showing that they are farmers, but really they are not farmers. So the difference in perception on how this can be done and needs to be ironed out. But then this does not mean that the government should succumb to the blackmail and laying siege to the national capital and then closing down the whole country. That is committing harakiri because that would be a sufficient hint to anybody to agitate and get things done. That's not done. Negotiations stop being negotiations when one party holds a gun to the other's head. There's a little anti-people in not submitting to coercive action. And coercive action is by a fairly prosperous section of the Indian population. Let's be clear, in any country, binaries don't work. So we need political skills. And what the government announced is a large outlay to improve the farm. The investment is, which the government has announced, 1 lakh crores of rupees for the investment purposes. So what's wrong with that? The fear that is repeated verbatim many times is wrong. And there is no guarantee to curtail They cannot be. Anybody can come. And the farmers have a right not to sell to the corporates. It's too simple for the words hardworking farmers. I agree. So then why can't they form a cooperative? The way Amul has been created by the farmers as a cooperative, and that's a monolith. So why can't the farmers have their cooperative of their own and go in for food processing and compete with Ambani's and Adani's? Who prohibits them? It's only an initiative has to be taken, and if the leaders like Badal and Amrinder and others can take the initiative to form a cooperative, the new parties, the corporates, if they come, as a matter of fact, can have a role in guiding, in showing to harvest practices. And the third option is that they can have a contract in writing, and that should be a legal document. So what's wrong with that? The government must not close the Mandi route, and that the government has agreed. Status quo, if they prefer, let that continue. But withdrawal definitely should be a no-no. As a matter of fact, you cannot deny the fact that the danger to the national security, economic loss to the industrial towns like Panipat, Karnal, Ambala, the vagaries of pandemic and the economy, they are at risk of being destroyed. So what we need is certain clarity from the farmers and education of the farmers and government's firm decision not to withdraw but to be ready to listen to all sensible alternatives and also to hold the law in a base are welcome signs. I'm sure the government would understand it, the farmers would understand it, and not forget that they're getting 1.22 lakhs per year only as subsidy. At the moment they realize that although they are important, which cannot be minimized, their importance, their value to the country, to the economy. At the same time, nobody can deny that they cannot hold a nation to ransom, and no government worth its salt would ever like to be blackmailed, to be held to ransom, to be made to do what should not be done. Let farmers open their eyes to the reality and realize that whatever has been told to them is nothing but falsehood. It's a shame that the people, for their personal interests, selfish interests, are misguiding the farmers, simple minded as they are, honest as they are, and they are being made just a human shield to further the interest of obnoxious politicians. The sooner the farmer realizes, the better it shall be for them and for the country. Thank you.